The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. And welcome to the show. Good to have you right here. It is Ambitious Radio, hosted by our friend Doug Parker, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership while interviewing interesting people and what makes them ambitious. Now, you know the show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system. You know, most of the time, small business owners need to personally guarantee any loans that their companies take out. That can be kind of tough to do if you have credit issues. So if you have less than perfect credit, go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for a free credit report evaluation. RepairMyCreditNow.com. Doug, what do we have going on today?
Today, we've got Jim Palmer, and he is a marketing and business building expert and in-demand coach. He is also the founder of Dream Business Academy and Dream Business Coaching and Mastermind program. Jim's the host of Dream Business Coach TV. We got a little bit of a theme going here. A hit weekly web TV show watched by thousands of entrepreneurs and small business owners. And he is also known as the host of Stick Like Glue Radio, a weekly podcast based on Jim's unique brand of smart marketing and business building strategies. He's also internationally known for the Dream Business Coach.
It's that time again. Summertime. Kids are out of school, running around, having fun in the sun, leaving the doors open, trying to air condition the entire neighborhood. I just got my first electric bill of the summer, and it is double what it was a few months ago.
Doug. Thanks for having me on.
I can't wait for these kids to go back to school.
Program.
Well, you know, thanks so much. I try to kind of stick with that brand of ambition and excitement, and it sounds like you've got kind of the dream brand, and I love that as well. So let's jump in. I mean, what did I miss?
Clients are saving anywhere from 15 to 20%. We also have a referral program that allows you to earn free electricity.
You married 36 years, father of 4 great kids, 2 grandkids, goodness, 3 grandkids.
Free electricity, DFW.com.
Just a few weeks
we
ago.
offer free energy credits to customers who refer and activate 15 or more
we've been
qualified
empty
customers
nesters
for our
a while.
electricity service
We
and are not
rescue
past due on
dogs
their
and
bill. To
cats,
get your free
and
energy
we are
credit, your
also
customers must be
boaters.
referred through your free customer
As a matter of
gathering
fact,
website. See
we're almost ready to move out of this house
details.
of 28 years. We're going to live and work aboard our boat for a few years.
Really? Now that's pretty cool. Now, so what body of water is the boat in?
It is in the Chesapeake Bay, in Upper Chesapeake Bay, Maryland. But what we're going to do here in the Northeast, where it gets cold, it gets winterized actually in a couple days, and we're going to be in a 1-bedroom apartment after we move out of our house till April. And then in April, we actually get on the boat, and we'll be on there for a couple of years. And our first voyage will be up to New England, where one of our daughters and 2 grandkids live. We're going to spend the summer in Rhode Island, and then in the fall, we'll start making our way down the Intercoastal Waterway to Florida. So, knock wood, this is going to be my last cold winter, Doug.
You know, I'll tell you what, I'm from Texas, and I was born and raised in Texas, and I've been here my whole life. And so when it gets, below 50 in Texas, we're like uncomfortable. So you guys up in the Northeast, y'all sure are wearing, T-shirts and shorts on that kind of weather. But for us, man, it's chilly.
I get you. I'd love 50 degrees today.
Well, so you mentioned you've been married for 36 years, and hey, congratulations to you. What an accomplishment, especially in this day and age where so many people just take things for granted, and something like 1 out of every 2 don't make it. I've been married for a little over 20 years, and the reality is it's a great opportunity to have that type of partnership for that period of time, and congrats on your success there. Now, 4 kids, 3 grandkids, and I can tell you are an extraordinarily busy business guy. So can you talk just a little bit about that? I mean, what was that like over the past almost 4 decades being a business person and going through all those things? It was always like smooth like glass, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've never had a fight in our lives. No, like any couple, we've had our challenges. But, one of the reasons we decided to do the boat thing is we get along so famously. It's just, that's really important. And honestly, a lot of marriages struggle after the kids leave because that's your common goal, at least, when the kids are home.
This family had dreamed of for quite some time.
We really decided to do this.
That brand new SUV.
I was an employee mostly for entrepreneurial companies until I was 41. And at the time, I was VP of marketing for a training company, and my position was then eliminated. That's when I found myself unemployed, Doug. And, with 4 teenagers at home, this is going back 15 years now. With 4 teenagers at home, I really thought that I'd be best served to find another, nice paying gig until I was more ready to start a business, which I always knew I would do someday. But I'd say God had other plans for me. And so after 15 months of unemployment and my first round with cancer, which was about 12 months into my unemployment, I had to deal with cancer. I decided, you know what, I was at a very low point in my life. And sometimes they say when you get so low, there's only one place to go, and that's up. And I decided the fact that I didn't have any money and I was already heavily in debt, I thought this would be a good time to start a business. So that's when I started my first business when I was 42 years old.
I'm glad you brought those things up, because so many times, people think they want to wait until everything's perfect. And it may be when they're, maybe perfect to get married, or perfect to have kids once you are married, or perfect time to start a business, or whatever the case is. And the reality is that, as we have seen, there's no perfect time for anything, because just about the time you think it's perfect, then some kind of train wreck is going to happen, because that's just how life is. And, interesting, as you're talking about cancer, my wife is currently going through breast cancer. We're probably about 10 months into her treatment and those kind of things. And so she's on the tail end of it, and it looks like a pretty good outcome.
Oh, good.
And so, but you go through those things. And as an entrepreneur, the one thing that I hear from I'm not going to say wannabe entrepreneurs in a negative way, but people that want to be. They're getting to the point where they don't think they want to work for someone else, and they want to go out on their own. They think it's because it's going to be easier and they won't have a boss and this, that, and the other. But what so many don't realize is that sometimes that structure of having a boss and some of those things can keep you out of your own way. And, the reality is you jump out there and, yours was through a job loss, but, then you're unemployed for several months, a little bit over a year, and then you get kneecapped with, the cancer, and then, one thing leads to another. But guess what? You said, you know what? I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to make it happen. And that's the other thing. Whenever you get so low, the only way is to go up. But that's if you stick to it and you roll up your sleeves and you don't take no for an answer and you don't feel sorry for yourself. You got to go out there and make it happen. The other piece is, I'm sure you can tell us a little bit more about this, but when time's tough and you don't have enough money coming in, you can't go get depressed and curl up in the fetal position.
That's right.
You got to keep pressing. So can you talk about mindset and how you persevered and how you just finally said, okay, look, I'm going to do this. And then what were those first few months like?
An entrepreneur is somebody who will work 80 hours for themselves instead of working 40 hours for somebody else.
It's that time again. Summertime. Kids are out of school.
And most successful people that I've spoken to have actually said, if I knew how hard those first years would be, I probably wouldn't have done it. But thankfully, you do and you do go through it. Doug, my first fully 12 months as a business owner was revenue-free. It took me a year to get my first client. Now, having kids at home and things like that, I knew that being a business owner was 100% what I was meant to do, what I should be doing, but I also had, mouths to feed, and so I actually got a job at my local Target. Now here I am, I was a VP of marketing, now I'm stocking shelves on the 4 a.m. shift, so I got out of work at 11 and then went home, cleaned up, put my big boy clothes on, and went out and started calling on companies for prospective clients. And I did that for a year. As I started eventually getting clients, I tried to withdraw some of my hours and tried to do that whole balancing act, and eventually Target said, well, you're either working here or you're not. And I said, well, that's an easy decision. So even though I wasn't ready cash flow wise, I quit. And that, just as you said, that was the impetus to keep going. Now, in your question, you also asked about how was it during those early days. Well, forget slow days and slow weeks. I had month after month after month of, when is this going to happen, right? And there was 2 things that kept going through my mind. Number one, I kept imagining And whether you believe in God, spirit, universe, I kept hearing God say, "What made you think this was going to be easy?" And everything worth fighting for, everything worth of value is worth fighting for. And the other thing, which was actually, as I look back on it now, with hindsight being 20/20 and a lot of time in the rearview mirror, I kept thinking to myself, how utterly ridiculous would it be if I was to quit now? I said that probably after month 2, month 5, month 8, my 11th month of not having a client. How ridiculous would it be for me to quit now when tomorrow I'm going to wake up and get my first client? It's a little bit of that book 3 Feet from Gold, if you're familiar with that. But every day that I didn't get a client, I just felt, okay, it's going to turn tomorrow, and I just kept going.
That's one of those kind of things that you really just have to be aware of. And like you said, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a parachute, you don't have a boss, you don't get to call in sick. And, you actually added some significant value there of how, you had to kind of humble yourself and go to work at Target at the 4 a.m. shift. I remember a time in my life where I had to go in and I was making good money, but I'd transitioned to something else and it didn't take off. And I had to work at Best Buy in the nights and weekends. And I did that, and it was almost like dang near minimum wage, I think. And, it's one of those deals where it didn't make sense, but I had to have something else to get some additional, that extra couple $100 of a week coming in to make it happen. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to make it happen. And I appreciate you, being just kind of vulnerable a little bit there, sharing that with us. And it really is great information, for our listeners. And, after a brief word from our sponsors, we'll jump right back in and hear a little bit more from Mr. Palmer about the things that he is currently doing and really how he monetizes his businesses right now on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
Home ownership. It's the American dream. It's a goal you've always hoped to achieve. You've spent countless weekends looking for the perfect house on the ideal block. The rates are low and you've saved enough for the down payment. Unfortunately, now the mortgage company says there's a little hitch. Okay, let's be honest. It's a gigantic, gargantuan hitch. It's your credit. And it looks like your estimated house payment will be a lot more.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
As we get back into the show, let's give a shout out to our great sponsors, all3reports.com. That's all, the number 3 reports with an S.com. Many people check their credit every 3 to 5 years when they're financing a home or maybe when they're purchasing a new vehicle. But if there is an issue, it could be too late to do anything about it. So go to all3reports.com to find out more. Speaking of a new vehicle, a wise person once said, lease what depreciates, buy what appreciates. So go to AutoFlex Leasing. They offer a better way to lease your next car. America's largest independent leasing company is AutoFlex Leasing. Doug?
All right, guys, welcome back to Ambitious Radio. This is your host, Doug Parker, and today we've got Jim Palmer with us, and he is the host of many different things, but really best known for his business coaching, the Dream Business Coaching, and his No Hassle newsletters. So let's just jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about how is it that you monetize your businesses? How do you get the value and put something in the bank for all your efforts?
Well, one of the things that I teach with of what a dream business is, one of the core principles is it has multiple streams of revenue. So when I started my first business 15 years ago, I was writing and designing newsletters for different companies and chambers, associations, nonprofits, and the like. And then 5 years into it, after I did start growing my business, Doug, 5 years in, my wife said to me one night, I think it was a summer evening, she said, "Hey, Jim, when are we going on vacation? We haven't been on vacation in like over 5 years since before you got laid off." And I'm thinking, my first impulse was, can we afford it? Yeah, we can afford it. But then I thought, oh my gosh, how can I go away? I've created a business where I am literally the sole employee. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. If anything has to be done, I'm doing it. And if for me to go on vacation, and who's going to answer the phones? And this was, before Ring Central and all that good stuff. And I just couldn't figure out how I was going to run my business. And what I realized at that moment, and several days of thinking about it, is I had created a job for myself. And while I was well on my way to creating some financial freedom, there was no way I was getting any time freedom. And that's when I shifted, Doug, to my first internet business. And then I ended up having 5 different internet businesses and then coaching. And so the answer to your question of monetization is, if you provide immense value with whether it's a product or a service, and you market it and brand it correctly, you're going to have customers. And one of the ways I discovered the whole concept of multiple streams of revenue is as I launched No Hassle newsletters, my first online business. My then clients were then asking me, hey, where do you get them printed? Can you recommend a printer? And I thought, well, I do use a printer because I've been using one for 5 years. And I thought, I've got people who are paying me money every month for newsletters and templates and content. Now they want it printed. And I basically thought to myself, I could make a referral or I could create a revenue stream. And what I did is I created Concierge Print and Mail on Demand. I partnered up with a printer, and long story short, they place an order through my website and the files go to my printer. He fulfills it and just mails them. And I don't own any printing presses. I just get a piece of every order that's placed there. And so we started going like that. And then people started asking me, where do you get all the blog posts and content for all the social media you're doing? So I launched No Hassle Social Media. And it just kept going like that, Doug. But I think the overriding principle is, if you listen really carefully to what your customers are saying and asking for, and saying is important, because sometimes you overhear conversations and you think, I think there's an opportunity there. And so just figure out how you can create another revenue stream.
That's a very interesting, transition. And we'll get into a little bit in the next segment about how, you develop new businesses and what's next for you and those types of things. But, as an entrepreneur, I know for me personally, so I'm not pointing any fingers at you. And if I am, I'm pointing probably 3 of them back at me. But the reality is, what makes entrepreneurs great is that, we have vision. We can see things, in the future, kind of conceptually what we want to do. The problem is that, we can see all kinds of stuff. And so it's like, squirrel, you're off on this or that or wherever. And, can you talk a little bit, because it seems like those were a couple of projects that seemingly, especially in this discussion, were absolutely no-brainers. But were there any other projects over the last 10, 15 years that you dreamt up and you started working on that you decided, nah, that's not going to work out too good?
Of course, everybody has that. Everybody who's doing anything has those. The only people who aren't making mistakes or doing launches that aren't working out are the people who aren't doing anything. I mean, it seems a little obvious on its face, but it's really true. If you look at any successful business owner, there are multiple failures in the past. And that's why, not to go down the political route, but when they were poking fun at a recent presidential candidate for some bankruptcies, well, of course, if you start 100 businesses, not all of them are going to work out, right? That just means you're very busy and you're doing things. Now, for me, I actually my third business was called No Hassle Marketing, and I thought, man, I've really got this marketing thing down. And I actually went with a partner, one of my good buddies, and I said, man, we got a lot of the same thoughts and feelings on marketing and entrepreneurship. So we started this new business, and we did it right because we were really good friends. We said, listen, we know not all partnerships work. So we actually spent like $2,500, which was a lot of money to us, to develop partnership papers. What happens if somebody wants to quit, get bought out? What happens if it doesn't work? We had all that figured out, and good thing, because it didn't work out. We each lost about $15,000, and but it was a great experience. I learned a lot about partnerships, that even when you have the right mindset and vision, everybody's got a different speed. Everybody produces at a different pace. So even if you have very clearly clearly defined lines about who's going to do what. If you need something that the other person is doing and they're not going to do it till Friday, and you really want to do it on Tuesday, that's going to be a source of conflict. But bottom line is, absolutely, Doug, if there are going to be failures. I've launched some programs which I thought were going to be grand slam home runs, and then something changes in the marketplace. I remember Pinterest was really big about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I launched this Pinterest graphics program, and we went gangbusters for 6 months, and then all of a sudden everybody's eyes were on something else, and I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Pinterest anymore. But you take the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things, and it sounds like obviously you are definitely flirting with the serial entrepreneur with all the branding and the different companies. And I also noticed that it seems like, the No Hassle and the Dream, those are two kind of brands that you've gone after and use them to do some of the different businesses. Obviously, that's purposeful. So how was it that you landed, on those two brands?
Well, when I so they're pretty cool company names. I don't hit 100%. Like my first company was called Dynamic Communication. What the heck's that mean? And but when I created the Done For You newsletter templates and the content, I was having a discussion with a buddy of mine, and he said, "Well, what exactly are you doing?" And I said, "I'm creating templates that people can just use, so it takes the hassle out of producing a newsletter." He said, "Really? How much?" I said, "These are completely no hassle." And he goes, "Oh, that'd be a good name." That's how I named No Hassle Newsletters. And that I really like that. And, it was shortly after that, I think, that credit card company, I think it's Capital One, used the No Hassle brand. And I'm saying, hey, they ripped me off. More than likely, I probably watched a commercial in my sleep one night. But, when you have a good brand, you want to keep building on it. And one of the ways that multiple streams of revenue work is if you have different products or services, but they're attractive to the same client base, right? So somebody who's a No Hassle newsletter client would easily be a customer for my printing service. Somebody who's both of those customers would easily be interested in No Hassle social media because they're obviously interested in marketing, growing their company. I do have customers of No Hassle newsletters who don't use the printing. I use people who use my printing service that aren't No Hassle newsletter customers. But when you can have a brand and you can keep building on it, it's really helpful to have multiple kind of silos, if you will.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it makes it where you can leverage it. Your customers are already familiar with it. It's nothing that's changing, and a lot of people they're just change adverse. Nobody likes change in general, and so it gives them a comfortable feel to kind of continue on with. So in addition to your book, and we didn't talk a lot about it, but we will, and maybe in the next segment get a little bit on that. But are there any specific other books? I know you mentioned one about the 3 foot.
3 Feet from Gold.
3 Feet from Gold. Yeah. Are there any other books that you recommend?
No BS Direct Marketing is one of my favorite books by an author and a mentor of mine, Dan Kennedy. Dan writes in a very conversational tone. His shtick or moniker is the no BS guy, so he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He just tells it like it is. I read that book, and I'm like, wow, because up to that point, I've been reading books, the history of IBM. I was reading, the guy who used to run GE. Doggone if his name slips my mind.
Now you say that, I'm looking at his picture in my head right now. Jack Welch.
Jack Welch. I'm reading
Jack Welch.
Yeah, Jack Welch. Thank you. Reading all these kind of serious books, and then I read Dan's book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is a total entrepreneur. He gets it, and I just resonated. I resonated so much after reading that book that I went back to my house. I was actually reading it on vacation. I went back to the house and got on Amazon and ordered all the rest of Dan Kennedy's books. So that's one I would highly recommend. It's outside the box thinking. He doesn't spend $1 unless he thinks he's going to get a return on it. He does not believe in brand building like Coors or Pepsi. It's if you're going to spend money marketing, you better make money back. It's really some really good grassroots core stuff.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember in the show prep you had put a quote that you really like. Can you refresh my memory on what that was?
Gross is for vanity and net is for sanity.
There you go. That's it. So we're talking about in this segment a lot about your income and where it's derived at, and then it kind of nicely transitioned to, hey, if you're spending money, you better have a return on that investment, because especially as an entrepreneur. If you're Coors or you're whatever, Coca-Cola or whatever, you're in a little different place, and branding is one thing. For entrepreneurs, most of us, it really does revolve around, just getting in front of people and getting a return on the investment. That's what we've got to do. And, if you start spending too much money just getting, quote unquote, your name out there, everybody will know your name. And then you'll be, speaking of bankrupt, you'll be in that bankruptcy filing line if you're not careful. So that is really, really some fantastic information. And guys, if you like what you're hearing, you can subscribe to us by texting the word ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates will apply. See the website for full details, and you can get updated on who our upcoming guests are, what's going on, and those types of things. Next, we're going to be talking more to Jim about what ambitious things he's got on the agenda for 2017 and beyond, right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Could you lose your career because of your faith? Could your pastor be sued because of his sermons? Can students and teachers be punished because of what they believe about God or what they say? Can the government or even your employer force you to violate your beliefs? Get the answers, and if necessary, legal protection from First Liberty Institute. This is Kelly Shackelford, president of First Liberty. We're the nation's largest legal organization dedicated exclusively to restoring religious freedom in America. In fact, First Liberty's nationwide network of top attorneys win over 90% of their cases. We've won at the Supreme Court all the way down to the local schools. If you want hope for religious freedom, go to firstliberty.org and get your free In God We Trust window clean. That's firstliberty.org.
Back in here on the show, it's Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, are you thinking of expanding your business but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a new phone system? Consider Grasshopper.com. You get to keep your existing number, you have multiple extensions, voicemails transcribed, and no new hardware. Grasshopper.com is the entrepreneur's phone system. Let's get back to the show with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and today we've got Jim Palmer, and he just does a little bit of everything. And entrepreneurs, I mean, if you're tuning in right now, if you're driving down the road, I would encourage you, go back and listen to this show. Go back to the podcast, where we replay it. But you got to tune in, make notes, because I'm getting golden nuggets like crazy. I'm scribbling stuff down here, and I love these shows for me because I get to learn from other successful people, and I hope that you guys are as well. So Jim, tell us just a little bit kind of about what ambitious things that you've got on the agenda for the remainder of this year and into 2017, and then how you go about making those decisions of what to work on and what not to.
I'm working right now for the next couple months as you and I are doing this, Doug. We got a live event coming up. I do them about every 9 months. So the next one's in February. So I don't know if you ever put on a live event. It's like 100% concentration for at least 60, if not 90 days. So we're right in the thick of it right now. I'm thinking about writing my 7th book in 2017. Have not completely gotten comfortable with that. It's an awful lot of work writing a book. And the funny thing about being an author is once you write the book, you think you're done. You're not, because then there's a whole bunch of marketing and speaking and things like that. So for the most part, I'm completely focused on my event. Of course, I have a huge number of coaching clients that I work with, and if that appears like a short list, it occurs, something just popped into my head. I was part of a high-level mastermind group about 5 years ago, and I was describing all the different things I had going on, and if that wasn't enough, I said to this group of people, and here's what I want to do next year. And I forget, it was probably like 2010 or 2011, and the guy who was running the program, just a multimillionaire, very successful business person. And Doug, I was really proud of myself. I thought my presentation was great, and I was ready for some accolades or, hey, good stuff, Jim. And this guy looks at me, and he had like this steely glare, and he goes, hey, Jim, do you mind if I tell you something? I said, no, please. He goes, if you would spend half as much time marketing what you've already created instead of always looking to create 3 or 4 new things every year, he said, you'll be so much farther ahead of the game. And I thought, wow. I really felt like I got a little bit taken to the woodshed, but in a good way, because it's true. At that point, I had like 4 different internet businesses and started my coaching program. And here I am looking at should I create new things? I said, no, you market the heck out of what you already have, and you're going to be so much farther ahead of the game.
You know, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because here's the deal. There's a couple nuggets for me in there. So number one is just the raw fact of what he said. You know, just work on what you're working on, and don't get so sidetracked and squirrel and you're looking at something else, and then all of a sudden you're not focused on something that could very possibly, you know, generate plenty of not just revenue but income for you. Net income. But the other part of it to me, and I'll tell you guys, you know, that are tuning in here, he mentioned Mastermind Group, and then he mentioned a multi-million-dollar successful business guy. So, you know, everybody likes to be around people where you're the brightest shining person in the room, because everybody's smiling at you and they want to talk to you and all that kind of cool stuff. The problem is that if you're the smartest person in the room, that's a problem, because you're not learning anything from any of the other people. You get into a mastermind group and you get around some other people, and there may be times where, like Jim said, you get taken to the woodshed a little bit. And sometimes, sounds like this guy was pretty diplomatic and, you know, kind of ask you for your permission, you know, to call your baby ugly a little bit and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll just drill you in your teeth and you're like, dang, that kind of hurt. But here's the thing. If you get around very successful people that are really making things happen, they're not impressed with whatever your little successes are, or your big successes for that matter. And that will keep you on the right path, because it gave you some direction, it gave you some clarity, it made you realize, you know what, I'm going to focus on the things I've got in front of me right now. And that makes a huge difference. I mean, it truly, truly does. And so I would encourage everyone out there, get into a mastermind group with some people that are peers, and that there's a couple of others that are a couple steps above you to keep you in line. And if you can't find necessarily a mastermind group, just go try to find a couple of individuals. Take them to lunch. Most successful people are willing to spend some time with you, especially when you don't really have an agenda, where you're not asking them for anything. You're just saying, hey, look, I'll buy your lunch if you'll just kind of pick apart some of the things that I'm doing and give me some direction. And most people like to give advice. So that's some powerful stuff. Now that's how you've gone about making some decisions. Now, did that change? Let's talk about that. What did that transition look like? So you said that was in 2010 or 11. What did 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 look like? How did you apply that knowledge, and what were things that you scrapped, and how did you focus your efforts more on the things that you were working on?
Well, there were some new things that I was going to launch, and I didn't launch them. I still haven't launched them, but I'm not going to share what they are, because I think someday they will be launchable businesses. Sure. But literally, for the last 5 years, I've done nothing except focus on my my high revenue generating activities, which are growing my coaching business and my main internet business, No Hassle Newsletters. And you know, it became clear to me that if I was to add 100 or 200 more members to No Hassle Newsletters, what that would do for my income would far surpass in a short order versus launching something new. And the other thing is with the coaching program, although that's a time-sensitive thing, because I do all the coaching myself, that's also, I found that to be highly rewarding. Now, the one thing that I did pull the trigger on, because, you know, it just proved to be very beneficial to my coaching, and also had their blessing, that's when I started doing my live events about 3 years ago. So somewhere around 2013 is when I started doing live events. And that was something that, it was kind of on the back burner for me, Doug, because honestly, it's not something that I really wanted to do. You know, when you put on your own 3-day seminar, this is what happens. You got to pick the date and just pray that there's nothing major conflict. You can check holidays, but there could be another big event going on that your prospective clients might be at. So anyway, you finally settle on the date. You negotiate with a hotel for meeting space, and the only way they're going to give you the meeting space is if you guarantee a number of sleeping rooms will be rented. And when I mean guarantee, if nobody shows up, you still pay for everything. So and food and drink is a minimum. So there's a lot of expense to putting that on. So there's that little bit of, oh my goodness. But then there's also the oh my goodness of what happens if I do sign everything and nobody comes. and to continue this little head trash dialogue with yourself. What happens if everybody comes and you're as good as you think you are, and then you get up in front of the room the first morning and you suck and you can't think of anything to say, and you got 3 days to fill? So there's a lot of reasons why, not everybody does live events, but I eventually did them, found out I was pretty good at them. People liked them. So that's an example of one thing that I did launch since that encounter, but it was definitely as a marketing tool to grow the coaching business, which was one of my priorities at the time.
Sure. Now, we've mentioned this live event a couple of times, but can you give us some actual details? It's in February, but what day in February? And if someone wanted to come to it, number one, what could they expect to learn from coming? And then number two is, how do they go about registering for it and those kinds of things?
It's Dream Business Academy. It's dreambizacademy.com. It's February 8th through the 10th in Orlando, Florida. And I will teach you everything about how to grow a dream business. And I'll show you what I call my $1 million platform, which is all the different ways that I have marketed and grown my business and that I teach other entrepreneurs. It includes everything from email to video, podcasting, speaking, how to create yourself, turn yourself into a celebrity expert, how to author a book, how to create a mastermind group, content marketing. There's all these different things that are important. I've got some really great celebrity speakers coming. I think I mentioned earlier, I've been doing several interviews today, but Bob Berg, the co-author of Go Giver series, good friend of mine, is coming to speak on how to get endless referrals the Go Giver way. Melanie Benson is America's leading small business optimizer. She's going to talk about how to fix your money DNA, which is how to get your millionaire mindset. And I've got about 6 other speakers, some of them team members of mine and some just really smart people. It is a hands-on workshop in a way. It's a no pitch zone. So if you've ever been to a seminar where every hour on the hour they put up another speaker and it's an order form shortly follows, it is none of that. It is a content-rich, no fluff, no pitch zone type of event.
Cool. And Bob Berg, he was on an episode several back, probably 15 or 20 episodes ago. And man, what a great guy. The Go Giver, what a great concept and how it works. And he's just a really cool interview. So I really enjoyed that time with him. And I'm going to look and see. I'm not sure what I've got going on in February, but man, it sounds like a great event and an opportunity to, many of us are doing many different things. And with entrepreneurs, I think a lot of us, we just kind of trial and error and figure it out as we go. We kind of build the airplane on the way down. And hopefully that before it crashes, we get it all put together properly. But, it sounds like from being an author and the podcasting and just the different things, even if you're doing some of those things, it sounds like it's a great way to put some polish on how to make them even better. And if you're not doing it, if you've just thought about it, it gives you some practical steps to move forward. So, that really nicely ties a bow on this segment of how do you decide what to do next and what are you working on next and those kind of things. And I appreciate you sharing all those details with us. Right here on the Ambitious Radio Network. Next, we're going to be talking more to Jim about what he does to recharge his ambitious body, mind, and spirit on the Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribe an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office.
And we're back in here on the show. It's Ambitious Radio Network, recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit, made possible by RepairMyCreditNow.com. Having bad credit can be really draining. It's okay to not be okay as long as you're on the road to being okay. Let RepairMyCreditNow.com help get you back on track. You know, many of our ambitious listeners prefer to listen to books as opposed to reading them. Now, with that, we've teamed up with Audible.com to offer you one free audiobook. Just go to AmbitiousRadio.com, click on the Audible banner on the page to find out more. Back to the show now with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and today we've got Jim Palmer, and he is a published author, successful entrepreneur. This gentleman is doing just a little bit of everything, and he encompasses the word dream in pretty much all of his businesses. And you know what? That's what entrepreneurs do. They dream, but then they put those dreams into action. And when you're in action a whole lot, you know, what happens? Sometimes you're going so hard and so long and doing so much that you run out of juice. And so I want to talk to you a little bit today, Mr. Palmer. Let's talk about that. What do you do to recharge your ambitious body, mind, and spirit? Because I know you said you went for 5 years, and your wife finally said, tapped you on the shoulder, said, hey, when are we going on vacation? So what do you do to recharge?
So it wasn't always this way. Certainly, I would think probably for the first 8 or 9 years of my 15-year career as an entrepreneur, I was in the category of working 80 hours instead of 40 or whatever I used to work, because frankly, that's what it takes. And you mentioned earlier, Doug, entrepreneurs, people are thinking about it. If you are not committed to working probably 3 times the hours you think you're going to work, you probably should wait until you're ready, because when you start a business, it is all consuming. And I mean, at the detriment if you've got young kids and things like that. So just think that out really, really carefully. It's owning a business is not for the faint of heart. Now, I learned an important lesson. I mentioned Melanie Benson as one of my speakers. She's also one of my great friends. She's been my personal mindset coach for, I'm going to say, 6 years now. And about 6 years ago, she said, when I was meeting with her once, she goes, you seem very tired to me. I said, oh, I got plenty of gas. I'm like, oh, I'm like the bunny. I just keep going, right? And she said, you have to take some time off. And literally, I just had so much going on, but that's how we always are every day. And she said, I'm not kidding. If you don't take time off, your health is going to start crashing. And she said, besides, you will come back and you'll be even more productive than you think you are now. And I've always trusted her. And literally, this was like a Thursday. And I told my assistant, Kate, I want to reschedule Friday and Monday's calls. I'm going to take a 4-day weekend. She goes, what? You never do that. Well, I did it. In fact, Monday, this was during August, as a matter of fact. I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'd always wanted to go to their training camp. So I actually went and spent the whole day at Eagles training camp. I came back on Tuesday, and I completely felt recharged, and it felt great. So you do need to take time. One of the things that I do today, and this is just part of my dream business, is I do all of my calls, my coaching calls with my clients, my interviews like we're doing, Doug. Everything happens Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I have no schedule on Monday and Friday. Now, in the winter, I'm usually working in my office. I might be writing or producing content or doing whatever I want, but I know there are 0 interruptions that are going to happen that day. In the summertime, we usually take 3 or 4 day weekends, and we just enjoy being on our boat. Again, it wasn't always that way, but I've designed my business in a way that it now supports my lifestyle. And as far as body, I exercise a little. I should be doing more in spirit. I'm in prayer every day. But I tell you, there's something about being on the water. It's just, in fact, when we drive to our boat, I could feel the stress melting away as we get closer and closer to the water. There's just something magical about water.
You know, that's cool that you say that. I am kind of the same way. I've got a couple of saltwater aquariums at my office that, you know, right now I'm looking over to my right and I've got these fish from all over the world that it's something about the water and looking at it that for me, it just helps me tune out. And at the house, I've got a pond with a waterfall and Japanese koi in there. And it's the same thing. You can go out there and just sit in a hammock and just listen to the waterfall and, you know, those types of things. So it's really finding a way to recharge. And you know, I know you mentioned that you said you went to the Eagles camp, you know, to recharge and over that weekend. Now, I'm sorry you're an Eagles fan. I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan, and you know, this particular
well, I'd rather be a Cowboys fan this year.
So this year it's pretty good to be a Cowboys fan. Last year, not so much. Yeah. But with that being said, you know, finding those things that you can do, you know, entrepreneurs are a different animal. We really are. And what happens is, you know, like I said, you've got the vision. You can jump out there, not afraid of hard work. A lot of us will work 80 hours, so don't have to work 40 for someone else. but there are limits to how long you can do that for, because most people that are working 80 hours, frankly, they're probably eating fast food all the time because they're trying to get in and out real quick. You only have 168 hours in a week, and so you got to sleep at some point and do some other things. And it does fall by the wayside, and if I had to do everything over again, who knows what I would do differently, because I'm pretty happy with where I'm at today. But you're right. When you talk about kids, there was a season with my kids, that there's a lot of things that I didn't get to do with them. And, they grow up on you. And as you mentioned, you've got 3 grandkids. I've got 2 kids and a grandkid on the way that'll be here in, I guess about 3 or 4 months in March. And, the reality is that, you don't get that time back. It is the great equalizer. And everybody, no matter how much money you have, no matter how smart you are, we all have 168 hours in a week. And it's just finding a way to enjoy it. And you mentioned that lifestyle. I think that's great that you've got your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that those are your kind of, scheduled times. And then the Mondays and Fridays, hey, it may be that you've got some stuff that's not on the schedule you're working on, or maybe you're taking a 4-day weekend, and that's a great position to be in. And no wonder why, you and the wife have been able to make it for 36 years, because you've made it a priority in your life to spend some time with them. And I got a buddy of mine named Brian Flanagan that was with Zig Ziglar for about 30 some odd years, and he still does things with the Ziglar Corporation to this day. But he says, the best time to tell your wife you love her. And,
every day.
Yeah, well, the answer is before somebody else does.
You're sick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, the reality is that we can take things for granted, especially family. And I think that's a very wise thing for you to say, that just, you got to make these things a priority and, spend time with them, because you can't go back and redo it. You really, really cannot. So let's talk about rest and kind of what does an average day look like for you. So are you one of those guys that gets by on 3 or 4 hours of sleep, or do you get like a normal person's amount of sleep?
Well, I don't know what normal is, but I get generally around 6 hours, maybe 7. I'm generally up by 5 a.m. I'm very productive in the morning. So especially if I'm in a writing mode or doing some kind of, I'm in some kind of what I call massive action mode, I can even get up at 4:30, and I just go for like 3 hours. I don't do anything. I don't turn on the radio, TV. I don't check email, because I want my mind completely free. I just sit at my computer and I write. And then I'll usually walk the dog, take a shower, and have breakfast, and then I'll start my workday. But I end usually by 6 o'clock. And I'd like to tell you I completely turn off. I don't. I was going to address that in our last thing there, where it's okay to be different. For example, if my wife and I are sitting on the couch and she probably has her laptop, I got my iPad, something's on the TV, and we're both doing our thing online, multitasking, and I'm checking email and stuff. But, when we go on vacation, or if we're away for 4 days, and this is something she had to get used to in the early days. She's totally used to it now. But when I'm on vacation, I will get up and I'll check email in the morning. I might check it at lunch, and I might check it again in the evening. But that's it. I don't obsess and take it with me to the beach and stuff like that. But the thing is, she goes, "You're on vacation." I said, "Yeah, but in the early days, I'd say there's no way in the world I'll be able to relax and have fun if I can't at least see what's happening. So if I check email, there's no big fires, everything's fine. Boom, I close the iPad and I go relax." One time we were there's a very historic town called Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. And I remember we were up there, and we took our dog. It was a dog-friendly town, and she's going in these shops, antique jewelry stores, things like that. And I said, "I'll just stay out here with Toby." And of course, I pop open my phone when she goes inside, and I'm checking email and stuff. And she comes out and goes, "Are you checking email?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, for real, what difference does it make if you're in the store shopping and I'm looking at email? I mean, it really makes no difference." That was about as close as we come to an argument about it. But honestly, if I can get, whether it's a minute or 5 minutes of just, okay, cool, and I close it, and as soon as she comes out, I close it, goes in my pocket, and we just walk on. So it's okay to be different. If you're an entrepreneur, you are not expected. I'd just be comfortable with this. Everybody that's listening, people that are W-2 employees, you have, whether it's 9 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever hours you work, when you leave, you're not the owner. You pretty much, unless you're on call or you're a first responder or something, you leave your job, and that's fine. You got your work life, you got your personal life. When you're an entrepreneur, you just have your life, and your life is a big part of your business. So it's okay if you can't turn your brain off.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the reality is that, some of us, it stresses us out not to know what's going on. I mean, that's what makes you good at what you do. But I think you've got a really healthy balance there. You talked about, when the wife comes out, then you put it up. Now, I'm guilty of, like looking at it nonstop and not, just putting it up. So with that being said, that's bad on my part, but you're right. You got to find a balancing act, how to keep your mind engaged and not stressed, but then also enjoy the things in life. And I keep looking at this, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing that you do, and potentially where you could have a 3 or 4 day weekend, anytime you want to, pretty much, if your schedule, if you don't have other projects that you're working on. And that's a really cool thing to look at, is finding a way to have some time that's precious time that you can, if you want to, make those things happen. Now, we've got just, a couple, maybe a minute or two left in the show, and I would like to cover, if someone wanted to engage with you, if they wanted to get in touch with you, are you social? How would people go about doing that on the internet or Twitter, LinkedIn, those kind of things?
Yeah, sure. So my home base is getjimpalmer.com, www.getjimpalmer.com. From there, you'll see my books, my courses, all the companies, links. That's where my podcast is, links to everything from there. I am all over social. I'm big on Facebook and LinkedIn, a little bit on Twitter for the most part. Those are the big three. So you pretty easy to find me on Facebook. And I'll generally respond on Facebook. I do limit it because there's just a huge amount of time. If somebody's super engaging, I'll usually post a link to my scheduler or my assistant, but I'm more than happy to reach out and things like that.
Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. It's been, to me, very valuable, and I've learned a whole lot just by just in the interview processes, and I hope that our listeners have as well. I want to thank you for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Doug. It's been an honor.
Thank you, sir. You are so welcome. And, we couldn't do it without our sponsors, so Ambitious Radio would always like to thank all the sponsors that are supporting our show. Tune in Wednesdays to Ambitious Radio, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.